somebody needs to go in and represent us. There could be a lot of people that walk out with her too.
Well, that's right.
We're with you, Nadine.
Yeah, we're with you. So go in and tell them.
So this is all or none. All or none.
All go in there.
Go in.
We can. Why?
Just ask for a yay or nay, Nadine.
So this is democracy. I represent you. You're the constituents in this riding. And if you tell me to go in and to deliver the speech that I came here to deliver and answer the question, I will. And if you prefer that I stand out here with you, then I will stand out here with you.
Nadine, one more vote can break the line.
Yeah.
Go in
Yeah, I think
and
go in and represent us, Nadine.
represent us.
We'll be here.
Okay, will you be here when I come out?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You walk in without that mask and you make it known and you walk out as brave as you can.
Then that's what I will do.
I'll be here. Don't you go. You represent us well. That's what you're doing.
Then that's what I will do.
And you can say we shoved you in there.
Absolutely. You have my
I don't know if they'll believe that. Okay. I need to go get my speech out of the truck. I'll be right back. You got the key?
It's open.
Oh, it's open?
Yeah.
Barry, do you want to go back to the car?
Really? How's it back like that?
Wow.
Okay, I will be back.
Okay, right on.
Yeah. Yeah, we're live streaming on YouTube. On her YouTube channel? Yeah. YouTube channel, Nadine Wellwood. Okay.
With masks, but
No, Kelly said it's okay. Yeah.
We all do. Thank God you guys are having this tonight, so my company, I own a company, I was beginning a small business, you know? Because these times.
Society for Housing Options, and later I was the
Does he know you got the exemption?
Yeah.
And more recently, I volunteered, or my company volunteered for the Cochrane Area Victim Services, and then we also did a strategy session with them, which wasn't voluntary. I very look forward to answering your questions and getting to know you. I invite you to come talk to me afterwards. I'm a small business owner. Before I did this, I was an academic. That was fun. I enjoyed it. In terms of politics, I've been involved in Alberta politics for a very long time. I was the Vice President of Policy for the Alberta Liberals. I was also the Executive Vice President. Before that, in 2015, while I was living in Cochrane, I ran Calgary Calling. So I decided to swap things around this time and make it a tougher campaign both ways. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm really hoping that you will ask me some tough questions afterwards. I know that this is only an hour, and what can you really say in an hour? Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and have a good evening. Thank you. I just don't know if you've seen where you're sitting. Carolyn.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me here this evening. I'm here to present myself as the most qualified and experienced candidate to be worthy of your vote to represent you in Ottawa next week. To even contemplate that, we need to go back to the fundamentals. What are MPs supposed to be doing? There are two fundamental aspects that our government should be executing. Keyword executing in Ottawa. They should be developing and implementing policy and law, and they should also be overseeing and holding our institutions to account. What I mean by that is our various government departments. Are they delivering the services that our tax dollars are paying them to provide for us? We have an awful dilemma right now. We have a government in place that has disappointed Canadians and disappointed our constituency. It has not delivered. It has not given you the value that you expected back from the plans that you were promised. However, we also have an opposition that seems more focused on becoming the next government rather than actually doing its job to hold government departments to account. What an awful predicament. We seem to keep trading off who makes the plans, but no one is making sure there is a deliverable. And both the government and the opposition have that responsibility to us. So why would you consider an independent candidate? Well, here's the thing. I don't need a party to advocate for your rights and your needs and your wants in Parliament. I don't need to have a party to actually demand accountability from government institutions. I'm here to give you that option to get your voice back. Thank you.
Thank you.
How's the audio, everyone?
She's exempt. So this election is about securing the future. The past 6 years under Justin Trudeau, and particularly the past year and a half, have been very difficult. And many of us are incredibly frustrated. And I'm sure that we'll hear some of that frustration expressed tonight. But we have a choice to make. We can let Justin Trudeau succeed in dividing us so that he can form another government. Or we can stick together and fight back and take back our Canada. I stand before you tonight, ready to stand up and fight for you, ready to offer you that same commitment, that same passion, that same strength, that same dedication that I've always offered to stand up for you and fight for you and your family. I stand before you as that same honest, trustworthy, compassionate, and dedicated community servant that you all know me to be. I'll be fighting for you and your family. I'll be fighting for your future. I'll be fighting for your freedom. I'll be fighting for you, for our community, and I'll be fighting for our country, for our Canada. So if you believe, as I do, that we have to stick together and work together to fight for our future and work together to secure our future, then I ask for your support.
Thank you. And Derek.
Greetings. How are you doing? I'm really glad to be here, glad to be able to share with you tonight who I am. My name is Derek Sloan. I was elected as a Conservative Member of Parliament 2 years ago. I ran for leadership of the Federal Conservative Party, and I was ejected from that party this year for being too vocal on what I believe is the most extreme times we've been in since probably the Second World War. We, unfortunately, live in a system where the big... If you are not playing by the rules, you get penalized. And one thing that I saw in Ottawa, there are good MPs there, but the problem is that there is a lack of willingness to stand up and be counted. And we live right now in a time where we must stand. Now, we may not agree on everything, but our country right now is at a tipping point. And if we don't stand, if we're not counted, we're not good for anything at all. I have spoken with many MPs in Ottawa who, frankly, feel that things are going the wrong way, and they speak behind the scenes and they share many concerns. But in all honesty, if we're not willing to stand up and be counted, we're not good for much at all. I don't agree with the carbon tax. I don't agree with many of the liberty-destroying things that we have seen over the last 18 months. I will stand against them. I will fight against those things. These are things that Conservatives have fought for decades, and all of a sudden they're doing other things. I believe we need to stand up and be counted. We need a group of people who are willing to stand and are willing to do the right thing regardless of what it costs them personally. That's what I pledge to you today. I'm very glad to be here, and I'd be happy to answer any questions later. Thank you, and God bless Alberta.
Thank you. Ron is not with us, so Ron is not here, so Nadine is next. Thank you.
I'm a little begrudgingly here right now, as there's a number of people outside these doors who've been denied entry. They're Canadians, they have rights like you and I, but apparently in Canada today, not all Canadians are equal. My name is Nadine Walwood, and I'm your candidate for the People's Party of Canada. John F. Kennedy was the one who said, "The rights of every man are diminished when the rights of one man is threatened." And today, Canadians' rights and freedoms are being violated, they're being ignored, and they're being used as political bargaining chips. And I'm sorry, but Canadians' rights and freedoms are not political bargaining chips. Canada is supposed to be a nation of laws, laws that were put into place to protect us in times of crisis and from the overreach of power-hungry governments. Many today hide behind the very freedoms that so many have fought and died for. Ask any veteran. But a brave person stands in front of freedom, and they defend it for the rights of all others. This is the role that I have decided to take upon as your candidate for the PPC. Discrimination based upon medical choice is no more acceptable than discrimination based upon sex, gender, doesn't matter. Discrimination has no place in Canada, not in my Canada. And every individual has the right to refuse medical treatment. Tonight I wanted to speak not about freedoms, I actually wanted to speak about fiscal irresponsibility. Trudeau called this election with the hopes that he would get another 4 years. And his puppet masters know what is about to happen, the reality that Canadians are going to experience. $1.3 trillion in debt, 40 billion. Sorry, I was told I could have 2 minutes.
Minute now.
Thank you.
Sarah.
Hello, my name is Sarah Zagoda. I live in Airdrie. I am a mother of 3, and I decided to run for the federal MP position because I'm upset. I'm mad at many different levels of government right now, and I aligned with the NDP's core values, which is unity, equity, and bringing everybody together. Things that really struck out for me are a head-to-toe healthcare plan, so dental benefits, prescription benefits, accessible healthcare or mental health care, and also their dream of adding post-secondary education to the public school system, so everybody can go to school no matter what their income. I'm also very passionate about saving our environment, our mountains, our water, because water is life. Politicians come and go, but the mountains are forever. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you to the candidates for their introductions, and moving forward with the questions now, you will each have 2 minutes to respond to the questions. I will go through the first question, and then I will ask candidates to come forward to respond to it in order. So question number 1 is, how do you plan to help Alberta and its workers transition to a more diverse, sustainable, and green economy? So first up is David Gamble.
Okay, that was an interesting question in some ways, because I'm going to answer 2 different things. So first of all, we heard a little bit about the carbon tax. The carbon tax is the one thing that we have that allows us to move forward with things like oil and gas, industry, any kinds of consumption that we do that is heavy carbon. What it does is it allows us to have a price, and a price that continues to go up, that allows us to ensure that companies will decrease their carbon. So we can see this with oil and gas companies. Most major companies, in fact, most companies in Canada, are moving towards becoming lower and lower carbon. So the carbon tax works. I know some people here will disagree with me, but it does. As for jobs, not everyone is going to get their jobs back. We know that. You know, it would be irresponsible to promise such a thing. However, for people who need to transition or who want to transition out of oil and gas, the opportunity is there. We have $2 billion that we are giving to oil and gas, former oil and gas workers across Canada to be able to be retrained and to work into new industries. I'm also very aware as somebody who's, you know, the vast majority of my clients are oil and gas companies. I know that the children of the people I work for, most of them maybe went to school thinking they were going to do oil and gas, but a lot of them are doing renewable energy. We've got really smart people here in Alberta, and we have really smart people in energy, and those people are going to help us solve these problems. The carbon tax makes sure that there's some pressure in the system to ensure that we'll actually get that job done. I probably have more things to say, but I think I'll leave it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, Terry.
So we are transitioning jobs out of Alberta, but we're transitioning them out of Canada as we stifle our own industries. And the way I look at it is it's not a question of green energy versus oil, but it's a question of where you want your oil from. Do you want it from Saudi Arabia? Or as long as we need oil, every drop of that oil needs to come from Western Canada. We should be taxing Saudi oil. Now, I truly believe that environmental growth and responsibility isn't going to come from a punitive tax that pushes innovation away from Canada, but actually will come from things like innovation, technology, and education. So let's get out of the way of energy companies and let's have them innovate. We are responsible. We're Canadians. We're environmentally forward. We're human rights forward. That's what we should be supporting. Thank you.
Thank you. And Carolyn.
Thank you. 2 minutes. I love this stuff. I actually have a master's in science and sustainable energy development, and I've actually been working with smaller communities as they've been trying to tackle this exact question on a smaller scale. I would suggest the same principles and philosophies apply to a national plan. What is happening is a lot of our government leaders don't truly seem to understand what sustainability is about. There are 3 critical pillars here, and they all have to be in balance in order to actually get a win-win result. You need the social component, which deals with the workers, our social fabric of our communities and the networks that we have with one another, as well as the capacities and capabilities of our individuals are critical. The second pillar is financial capital. You need to have a strong budget and a sense of how to make the numbers work. Former math teacher, it drives me bonkers that government does not seem to know how to keep a balance sheet. And the third, of course, is the environment. We have an abundance of natural resources. It's about finding the balance so we do not compromise our circumstance for future generations. It is not a simple thing, and for parties to think they can come up with a simple solution when there's so many nuances and complexities is an offense to the intelligence of the voter. You need a plan that is multi-dimensional and engages multiple levels of government for it to truly be successful. The stakeholders have to be involved, and that includes all aspects and dimensions of our society and all of the different groups that compose it. Bring it on. We need to build a solution with people who know how to build a plan and execute. Thank you.
Thank you. And Aiden.
My family's benefited greatly from the oil and gas industry for much of my life and before that as well, and I know many of yours are no different. I think what we have to understand is that oil and gas workers, I actually listened to my colleague a few seconds ago say, get out of the way of energy companies, and I thought to myself, we've tried that. And when we benefit from the oil and gas industry, times are great, we're flourishing, society's driving, and Alberta's a leader in that. But the moment it hits the fan, like in 2014 when the recession hit, where were those companies to bail out working people? Where were those companies to bail out you? They weren't there. And neither was government. One of those players was supposed to be there for you, and they weren't. Why I'm running is because I'm sick and tired of seeing working people in Cochrane, Banff-Airdrie, and across this country, 500,000 oil and gas workers who put their lives on the line and spend weeks and weeks and weeks away from home and family, going through the mental struggle of isolating themselves to put food on the table, to not earn the respect. And I see my party talk time and time again about a just transition. There is no just transition if we don't bring every working person along with us. And that includes the 500,000 people that call the oil and gas industry their form of employment. We need to secure wages. There's no reason why one of the richest countries on earth cannot provide for these working people in a just transition. I hear talk about a green economy. I'm running for the Greens because I believe in that. What I don't believe in is that we're going to get there by allowing energy companies to lead the way. Because time and time again they have failed us, and so has the government. So I'm running to be your voice in Ottawa, to get loud, and to make some noise, and to say that working people have not been given a fair deal. And it's time to go get that fair deal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so our next question that I will present is there are currently 33 water advisories on Canada's First Nations reserves. What is your party doing, or your view as an independent, to end the Canadian contaminated water crisis? We'll start with Derek.
I was hoping I'd get to answer that last one because I was wanting to talk about transitioning away from Saudi oil and transitioning more into Alberta oil and transitioning away from Chinese products, but we'll talk about that another time. It is true that we have been talking about water for ages on reserves and other places, and we haven't done much about it. And I'm actually a big water guy. I love lakes. I love being in the outdoors. And one thing that really bugged me this year is with all the, and I don't want to pick on anybody, with all the Liberals talk about the climate and the carbon tax and the Paris Agreement and all these things, they voted down a bill that was put forward by a Conservative that would have eliminated raw sewage dumping into our fresh waterways here in Canada. About 900 billion litres of raw sewage is dumped into our waterways every 5 years, or in the last 5 years anyways. And I am very discouraged by that. Now, this is a related issue of our disrespect of our water systems. So what I believe generally when you're dealing with the environment is let's do things, but let's do things that actually make our water cleaner, actually make our air cleaner, not just focusing on one particular substance. With respect to boil water advisories on reserves, this is a major issue that has to be solved. And everyone will come up here and pound the table and say that it has to be solved. But it's a fact that the bureaucracy is broken. Indigenous affairs, it's broken. They're spending billions and billions and billions. We're not seeing anything come out of it. We need to make sure that we take these issues head on and solve them once and for all. And of course, it is easier said than done, and there has been work put forward on this, but we live in a first world country, and the fact that so many of our citizens here are under boil water advisories is a shame. And it's also a shame that they're dumping raw sewage into our fresh waterways all around the country. This is something that is a real environmental issue that ought to be tackled instead of the carbon tax, the Paris Agreement, and never-ending taxes that advantage China over Canada. Thank you so much.
Nadine.
The Liberals have had 6 years to deliver on a promise that they have yet to deliver on, and that is clean water for people on reserves. There is absolutely no excuse for anybody in Canada to have to boil their water. The environment, we do have people dumping raw sewage. It took an Albertan in BC to refuse to actually dump raw sewage into the ocean and to tell them that no, we have things called wastewater treatment plants these days, and we can do better. And we need to do better. But the reality is, our reserve systems are broken. The Paternalistic Indian Act is broken, and we need to do better. People need to stand firm in their beliefs, firm for what they want, and we need to work together with our Indigenous populations, not just platitudes and false narratives because it suits some politicians' needs. I think we're all tired of that. And so for me, we need to get government out of the way. People are the solution. We have the answers, we have the innovation, we have the talent, but we have government at every angle providing restrictions, regulations, more and more obstacles to having those initiatives come through. So let's get government out of the way, and we'll solve the problems.
Thank you. Next, Sarah.
Hello. So, in regards to end boiled water advisories, there actually has been a lot of progress made, but it takes time to develop the plans, get the approvals, do the engineering part, and then the construction. But with the minority government, there actually has been a lot of progress, and what I hope is that our party will help continue to build and to get rid of those water advisories. It just takes a little bit of time, but there has been a lot of progress, and hopefully all of those can come to an end soon, because water is life and we all need it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Blake.
Sounds like I got one real big fan there. Anyways, you know, isn't it sad when we're in a country like Canada and we're talking about the idea that some people don't have safe drinking water? And as has been mentioned a couple times already, isn't it sad when we're in a country in Canada where we are talking about the idea that we're dumping raw sewage into our waterways? I mean, really, should that ever happen in Canada? No, it shouldn't. And I think that's what happens when you have a government that governs with slogans and symbolism, rather than actually looking to try and find ways to take action. And so that's why a conservative government would be one that would take action. And we've demonstrated that in the past. If I look at this, just at this file alone, when we talk about Indigenous affairs, look at some of the progress that we were able to make. You know, we made a lot of progress forward on a number of things, but one of them was specifically on education for our First Nations people, because that is one of the ways that we can help to improve lives on our First Nations reserves. I was proud when I was first elected as a member of Parliament. One of the very first things I was able to accomplish very early in my days as a member of Parliament was to get a new school for our friends on the Stoney Nakoda First Nation. They were in desperate need of a new school, and I went to the minister in charge at the time, and although there was a program that had been in place, it was already oversubscribed, and we were able to find some money, and we got that done so that we could get a better future for our folks on the Stoney Nakoda Nation. And you know, I think about the First Nations Accountability Act that we put in place as well. you know, we were able to for the first time, show the salaries and the compensation that First Nations chiefs and councillors get, just like all other politicians in this country have to do. Why should the First Nations people not get that same right to know what their politicians are making when the rest of us as Canadians get to know that? So we were able to make actual progress on this file, and I can tell you that a Conservative government would do just that in the future.
Thank you. So I'll move to our third question. And this one is quite directed to something that's happening in Cochrane. So based on a recent unionized settlement reached with the RCMP in creating comparative equity for RCMP officers with their counterparts in a number of the city forces, such as Calgary, how would you as a federal MP advocate for the town of Cochrane, who are considered responsible for providing the payment of that retroactive 5-year wage? So as a municipality, it is incumbent on us now to pay $1 million plus by the end of this year to cover that retroactive wage pay. So we would like to know how you would advocate for the town in dealing with options around that. So I'll start with Sarah at this point.
I've actually had the pleasure of meeting with mayors for multiple cities here, and everybody else budgeted for it. And I'm sorry to say that, but Airdrie and Canmore, like, everybody knew it was coming, and so they put it into their budget. So I understand that Cochrane didn't. I don't know why, but that is a big bill all at once that you're not prepared for. So maybe somebody can talk to the federal government about that to help you guys out, or put you on a payment plan. But yeah, everybody else budgeted for it, so I'm sorry that that was not on your city council's radar. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Nadine.
Problem with specific questions like that is that none of us up here this evening, to be honest, were given that question in advance. And there is no time to sit and analyze the actual data that's needed to be, take even a look at who's responsible for what or why. So the one thing that I can assure you, that as a member of Parliament, I will not speak to things or make promises that I can't deliver upon or that I don't know. That is a question that I'll be more than happy to investigate, but is not one that I am prepared nor am able to answer at this time.
Thank you. Next, Derek.
So the reason why this issue happened is the city of Airdrie and the city of Cochrane did not have a seat at the table. This was a question of Ottawa without the involvement of Alberta. Our party over time is going to advocate for policing to be managed in Western Canada rather than here. What that does is it affects your property taxes now by a factor of 5 to 6% alone. And because there's no commercial revenue streams in Cochrane and in Airdrie around RCMP policing, you're eventually going to end up paying for it. Why that's happened is because I talked to both city councils. Why that's happened is because they tried but could not get a seat at the table when it came to police union negotiations because they happened in Ottawa. What if they happened in Edmonton? How much better would that be? Plus, they would be a bigger stakeholder. Instead of negotiating 130 police officers in this area, they would have been negotiating with a much closer partner and a stronger spending limit. So my solution to that is to eventually get less Ottawa when it comes to policing and then move that to the west. Thank you.
Thank you. And Blake.
So I know there's a number of municipalities in our riding that have this same concern. I have talked to Mayor Janam and a number of other municipal officials that have brought this forward to my attention. And certainly, you know, when a federal government negotiates a contract with a union, it shouldn't fall upon municipalities to have to pay the bill for a decision made at the federal level when they had no input into it. And so, you know, we're trying to get some clarity, first of all, around this. Obviously, we need to be, I find it difficult to imagine that the federal government can actually impose these costs upon the municipalities, and we're certainly not certain whether that is actually the case at this point. But first, we need to get that clarity. But if we get that clarity and determine that that's the case, obviously I'll be fighting and advocating for our local communities to make sure that we don't see those costs imposed upon ratepayers in Cochrane and Airdrie and Canmore and other communities in our riding if you know, because it is the federal government that's negotiated this contract and they've done that retroactively. They should be responsible for picking up the cost of that policing. That's only reasonable. So I'll certainly be doing as I've always done and advocating strongly for our local communities and working closely with our local municipal officials to make sure that their interests and the interests of the community are taken care of.
Thank you. David.
I thought we had different questions. I wasn't expecting to answer this one. My understanding of the RCMP is that there's an agreement with the provincial government and it's outsourced through the federal government. But I believe, Blake, that he's working on resolving that and it probably is already being dealt with, I assume. I wanted to talk a little bit about the question of the reserves, and I think that my voice not being able to respond to that one is a deficit for all of you. For one thing, if you look at my Twitter, you'll see that I've posted a graphic that shows all of the reserves that have had the water fixed, the ones that are in progress, and the ones that are about to be done. So they actually are in progress. And Sarah was right to suggest as much. Another thing I want to point out is that the last time we had a major opportunity to resolve our differences as nations was to ensure that there was reconciliation for First Nations people with the Kelowna Accord when Paul Martin was Prime Minister. And as you'll note, when Stephen Harper became Prime Minister, he crushed that idea and it was shelved. I would hate to see, as I know a lot of First Nations would hate to see, all the progress that is made towards reconciliation to be lost. I think that would be a travesty. So I hope, if there is a Conservative government, they'll at least keep working through this reconciliation piece, because this is desperately needed in our country. It will help get rid of systemic racism, and it'll help us to ensure that we have a just and meaningful society. And hey, you know, secure the future is just as much of a slogan as forward for everyone. Anyways, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, moving to another question. This is for some of the smaller party or independent candidates. How much of a voice would you anticipate having, and how would you intend to make a difference while not being affiliated with one of the major large parties? So I'll start with Nadine.
So I'll start by saying, as you can probably hear, I've got a pretty loud voice. And I'll also say that despite the speech impediment, I've become so fed up with the big establishment two parties and most of the third party that I've had to go to the Green Party of Canada to find myself a home where they don't whip votes. That's one of the reasons I found a home with the Green Party of Canada, is that I can directly work for you, which is supposed to be the job. Now, a lot of my colleagues have a lot of great ideas, but they meet the wall that's called the party whip. Now, my friend Blake over here is the party whip of the Conservative Party of Canada and has held that role for a long time. I think an important thing to mention is without a party whip, not only can I work for you, but in times of crisis, in times of pandemics, in times when $400 billion are being found and spent on everything but working people, you're going to want your MP to be able to come home and talk to you, not have to go talk to the party whip to make sure that I'm going to vote okay, and that I'm going to still have my job with the party going forward. My job's with you. I'm here to earn your trust. To do that, I have to get elected. That might not happen this election, because believe it or not a lot of people in this riding support the Green Party. But one thing I understand is that a lot of working people are disenfranchised with this system. So one election at a time, I plan to earn your trust. One handshake at a time, I plan to earn your trust. And yeah, I've got a loud voice, and I plan to use it, if I'm elected or not. So let's do all ourselves a favor. Let's roll up our sleeves. Let's get someone like me to Ottawa, and let's go make some noise.
Thank you. Carolyn.
Thank you for that question. I guess the starting point is I already have a successful track record. If anyone looks into my work history, I have been working in the energy and environmental space, both as a teacher and a lawyer, for over 20 years now. I've been engaged in National Energy Board hearings and proceedings and have successfully negotiated for compromise parties in finding win-win solutions despite the failings of the federal government in particular to take responsibility and accountability for some of the messes it's created. You don't need a party to actually be able to advocate and lead solution building. You're working with colleagues in Parliament. What I find particularly concerning, and one thing I think I can bring to Banff-Airdrie and advocate in Ottawa, is I actually have knowledge and qualification. Listen to the couple of questions we've just had here. I've worked firsthand with the federal government departments, Natural Resources Canada, Fisheries and Oceans. I've worked with Environment Canada. I've worked with INAC, Indian Northern Affairs. They've rebranded again and again. I have seen the chronic failings of these institutions and the systemic rot of paternal colonial ideas. We're not going to fix things unless we have someone who actually understands how our government is running and can call it out and ask for those changes to be made. Look at the question about the RCMP. Maybe it's the lawyer in me, but let's have a look at the contract first. Did Cochrane actually get the services it is being asked to pay for? If you're not getting the services, using common sense, why are we having the government require you to pay for something you haven't gotten? Again, speaking from my legal experience, I've spent years litigating lawsuits to hold the government accountable for things it hasn't done. Let's be proactive, call them to account. You don't need a party to do that. You need someone who's brave enough to stand up, identify the issue because you have the capability and qualification, and then demand a follow-through and an execution. I can do that. I have proven and have done it for others. Put me in the big ring. Put me in the big pond. Let's put Banff-Airdrie back on track to success and be a leader in Canada rather than responding to the whims of plans that never get executed. Thank you.
Thank you. Derek.
Thank you. Well, I am a living, breathing, independent member of Parliament right now, and there's not many of us around. And in fact, we're rare in history in this country. And I can tell you, having been one, I was able to accomplish way more in my time as an independent than my time as a conservative. I did 2 separate press conferences in Parliament Hill that CPAC must broadcast that became the most watched political videos of all time on CPAC. One is the most watched video on CPAC of all time, and it became so within 2 days. You can watch that on my website. It's still on the CPAC website as well, but YouTube pulled it down after 3 weeks. They didn't like that it was getting more airtime than Justin Trudeau's press conferences. But in all seriousness, I would say that Aidan is correct. All parties whipped the vast majority of their votes, even the New Democratic Party, the Liberal Party. It really is a shame. They talk about democracy on the outside, but they don't practice that on the inside. And even the Conservative Party, which is actually better than the others in the sense that they give free votes on moral issues, the vast majority of those votes are whipped as well. And in the Constitution of the Conservative Party, it says there, as a principle, votes should be free, and yet they're not. So this is a problem with all parties. The Green Party, to their credit, does allow free votes, and that's a good thing. But I will tell you, as an independent, I got more speaking time in the House of Commons. I asked any question I wanted that I felt was valid. I didn't have to run it by anybody at any time, and I was able to do many initiatives that I was the only person to vote against things like Quebec unilaterally altering their constitution and many other things because I didn't have anybody telling me what to do. It is it would actually be best if everyone acted this way across the country. We wouldn't be in the mess that we're in today. But unfortunately, the major parties control everything. So being an independent absolutely gives you more latitude to do anything that anybody else can. And at the end of the day, whoever you elect here has one vote in the House of Commons. So you can have one vote and a loud voice, or you can have one vote voting the wrong way and a quiet voice. That's your choice. So good to talk to you tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Eric, thank you for voting against Quebec. And here's the thing. The way I look at it is, it's worked, I hate making the reference, but it's worked so well for the Bloc Québécois. 31 seats. And look how powerful they have been for getting Quebec what it wants. The Maverick Party is running 30 candidates in the West. And in 6 days, one of 2 prime ministers statistically will happen. Hopefully not, and Justin Trudeau gets a $600 million reward, see him out of the door, and an Aaron O'Toole government. Now, that is the lesser of 2 evils, because right now, Aaron O'Toole signed a 9-point contract with Quebec on a whole bunch of different autonomy issues, including immigration, taxation, healthcare, etc. We have gone on the record saying that we will get Aaron O'Toole over the finish line on a confidence vote, but our list of demands will include scrapping the carbon tax first and building an energy corridor second. So can you imagine the power of having that to get Aaron O'Toole over the finish line versus Western CPC MPs right now that have been told, if you don't put up with this plan, you have to get out and leave the caucus. Thank you.
Thank you. You can go as an independent one more time.
So I get to be an independent, but I also get the backing of a national party across the country that is uniting all Canadians on shared values and shared principles. But I work for the people in this riding. You are my constituents, and I am an Albertan. I'm not a Western MP who has to represent the interests of BC or Manitoba or Saskatchewan. I'm your MP, and that's exactly who I will represent, my constituents, and then my province and everything else thereafter. I don't have to see Aaron O'Toole over a finish line as it relates to anything pipeline or oil and gas because he doesn't support it. I'm going to fight for Albertans for what Albertans want, and it's already in our platform, Alberta. All you have to do is look and see. It's already there. It's been there since 2018. Everything we have asked for, everything that we have wanted, and I am going to pull together the resources from across this country. 338 people who are going to hear an Albertan's voice stand up and defend and fight for Albertans. You think I'm going to be whipped? Absolutely not. This is the whip over here. He is the one who has silenced every Albertan MP for the last 18 months in his absentee. An independent, as wonderful as that sounds, they get 1 question a week. 1 question a week. Albertans deserve better. Why? Because we can do better. As a national party, I will stand up and I will defend and I will fight for you, not once a week, multiple times a week, on committees. So you write the message, Alberta, I'll deliver it.
Thank you. Okay, moving to the next question. With nearly 30% of Canada's children living with severe mental illness, what is your party doing to increase educational and community supports? What is your party's plan to increase awareness and decrease stigma associated with mental health? And this obviously applies to any of the independents that I asked to come up. So we'll start with Aiden.
So this one's pretty important to me. I've got a little sister who's on the spectrum. She's high-functioning autistic. I have a little brother who suffered some neurological damage after he was dropped in the hospital as a baby. So that's a tough hand for my mom to deal with every day, while my stepdad goes up to work in the oil and gas industry and she lives down in Spruce Grove, trying to find school after school, system after system, giving her kids the social and educational opportunities that they need to thrive. They're smart kids, but they're being failed by a system right now. And this does not have to be this way. If we can find $400 billion for a pandemic, you're telling me we can't find the money we need to give every single child in one of the richest countries on earth the education they need to have an active role in this society and in this economy? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. The priorities of the big parties are not for you. They're not in line with what you need. Working families, children in schools, teachers have been wrung through the mud during this pandemic. This is not a normal thing, but it's become a new normal. And we have a choice. We can sit back, accept it, this is the way things are, this is the powers that be, or one riding at a time, we can elect MPs, one after the other, who give a rat's ass about every single working person in this riding and in this country, and who want to see politics done for the right reasons. I want to do it for my little brother and sister, I want to do it for my mom, I want to do it for my dad, and I want to do it for you. We can build a better Canada than the one we have witnessed over the last 19 months. Together, I can show you every day why trusting me is going to get us there. One day at a time, I will roll up my sleeves and I will get to work for you. The Green Party offers mental health care coverage universally, a guaranteed livable income, pharmacare. These are directly impacting families and children across the country. These are the policies we need. I can deliver for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Carolyn.
Thank you for the question. I think we need to go back to the fundamentals again. We have to first of all recognize that issues of health and wellness are overlapping between different governments. And so I think it's actually incompetency to try and answer the question without looking at the entirety of the situation. You need to first of all see what the dynamic is within those institutions, agencies, provincial and federal, and how they're working together. Are they actually delivering the programs and services that they're being funded to deliver? In my experience and from talking to constituents, that's not always the case. Again, this is lack of federal government oversight to make sure we're actually doing the things that we've already developed plans and put mandates out there to do. When you're doing this analysis, I would suggest you look at all stakeholders though. The one word that sticks out to me here is not just providing the support for those with mental illness, but it's to remove the stigma. And part of what the problem is maybe we're not considering all the stakeholders in play. Let's look at some of the independent organizations and professional bodies that are being allowed to self-regulate and are actually harming and facilitating the abuse of identification and recognition and support of these kind of illnesses. For example, the College of Alberta Psychologists are self-governing. They have psychologists who are doing analyses. Where's the check and balance on how they're actually properly informing decisions that are making findings of mental health issues, which are actually undermining those who are suffering real problems? So you have to look at all of the stakeholders here, not just the specific department that's looking after funding for those who need extra supports in the school system. I was a teacher. I remember doing those IP plans, okay? You need to look at the entirety of it, because when you're not looking at the entirety of it, you're actually further harming and compromising the very people who need our support because it's being abused. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Tariq.
So there's core institutions of society that we love and hold dearly as Western Canadians. And those are healthcare, education, and social support systems that include mental health. So I'm not going to be making any partisan attacks here, because I think this is something the parties should work together on for the benefit of society. But what I will say is this. In terms of the fact, and I agree with Aiden, if we are underfunded, and we are, in terms of mental health support, education, and healthcare, I say the way that we fund those is from a strong economy. And right now, our economy is under attack from Eastern Canada. So my objective is to keep those resources here in the West and start to fund our own programs before we fund programs in Quebec and Ontario. Thank you.
Thank you. Derek.
Thank you. We've always had a mental health crisis in this country, and COVID made it much, much worse. And to top it all off, in the middle of COVID-19, the Liberals passed a bill called Bill C-7, which expanded access to euthanasia. It went to the Senate, and it came back from the Senate, allowing within 2 years of that date access to people who are mentally ill to access euthanasia, those who are not dying or reasonably foreseeable, or the reasonable foreseeability of death is close. This is a problem, friends, because how can you have suicide prevention on one hand, but then the ultimate option on the other? And I think about an Albertan here, Colonel Dave Redmond, who actually authored the original disaster response plan of this province that was in force up until COVID, at which point it was jettisoned. And they've done things that they've never done before, such as quarantining the healthy and sick alike, irrespective of your health condition, shutting down businesses for months on end. As bad as it was here, it was worse in other areas of the country. We're seeing mental illness, anxiety, eating disorders, all of these things, overdoses, suicides skyrocket. And this is something that needs to be addressed. For one, we can't be locking everybody down again. Now, even if we don't do that, we still have a mental health crisis on our hands. It must be addressed. I have a good friend of mine, Theorin Fleury, talks about the many people who have gone through abuse and trauma in Canada. We have to, that's not the only cause of mental illness, of course, but we have to help people where they're at. We need to deal with people who are dealing with addictions and all of these things, and we have to do it as a community. We can't do it when we're apart, when we're at home. This is where, when we're locked down for months on end, this is where these problems fester. Targeted measures are fine. We cannot shut down the economy and our society again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll move on to our final question for the evening, and parts of the group, we're doing 3 questions.
Would it be okay if you told us in advance, so we're not preparing to answer the question in our head?
It's also important to see you guys stand on your feet and react to the situation. Okay, so the final question obviously is going to be one that evokes emotion in a lot of people. So, what is your personal position and the position of your party on vaccination passports, the mandatory vaccination policies currently being presented in the government and the private sector? And I will start with David.
I think everyone knows what the Liberal Party's position is on that. I'm not going to sit here and repeat it. It's a provincial requirement. Oh, you can boo all you want. If the economy wants to get opened, we need, I think Nenshi just mentioned the other day that we lost. You guys, seriously?
Let him finish, okay? Thank you.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to answer that question because clearly nobody's listening, and psychologists will tell you when people behave like that, they're actually not using their brains, right? But you know, they're not going into their cortex. I'm sorry, that's just a psychological thing, it's not a judgment. Okay, here's the thing, okay? Mental health, super important. We saw this during COVID, we see this all the time. If the Liberal government is re-elected, we are going to be putting a lot of money into mental health. You'll note that we actually are increasing healthcare funding to all the provinces. It's a provincial jurisdiction. But we're going to increase that because of backlogs to our system because of COVID. In addition, we are including mental health in the Healthcare Act. I know that maybe that's not as clear as maybe some people would think. On top of that, we also have a $10 daycare program that the province has to sign on. So if I were going to summarize the difference between us and the Conservatives, is they think provinces should make decisions for themselves, and we believe, and I know lots of people here believe that, but we're in a federation, and so that means we have certain things that we make a decision on federally, and we have other things we make provincially. And as Caroline has reminded us several times, there has to be working together. So obviously, if FCSS needs money to implement these things that we're promising, it's going to go through the provincial government. Okay? So I know as a business person that I was able to keep my staff during the pandemic because our government made sure we had resources. I know that lots of people didn't lose their homes or their livelihoods or have extra mental stress because they had money from CERB or their employer was supported. This is incredibly important. It ensures that we have stability. Thank you so much. Please check out on our profile. Justin Trudeau does a 90-second platform.
Blake.
So I want to start by being very clear. I believe that all Canadians have a right to make their own choices about their health care. That is a critically important part of this discussion. When it comes to the idea of vaccination passports, there's two different parts to this. There's international travel, and then there's what we do within our own country. Because when it comes to international travel, as we all know, almost every country in the world is requiring proof of vaccination to travel there. It's just a fact. It's just a reality. It's not my position. It's just a reality that's a fact. And therefore, the government will have to produce those things for those who want them, voluntary basis. Anyone who wants them to be able to travel or needs them to be able to travel, they'll produce them for those people. When it comes to within our own country, that's another matter. I don't believe that anyone should be excluded from being able to participate in things within their own country based on their choice about their own health care. And so what we would do is we would offer an alternative where this is happening, right? Where there's provinces putting these things in place, where there's employers putting these things in place, we would encourage there to be an alternative, such as rapid testing or other things that could be put in place so that people can make a choice about their own health care and still have an opportunity to participate within our country and society. Now I wanted to just quickly address some of the misperceptions that have been put out there by some of the other candidates about my role within the Conservative caucus. Because I think it's really important that people understand that role involves dealing with the logistics for our caucus and ensuring participation in Parliament. And one of those things is making sure that all of our committees, the strategy for all of our committee work that we do in Parliament, something that the independent and smaller parties wouldn't have an opportunity to participate in, but it's a very critical part of the functioning of Parliament. It also would, if the Conservative government was elected, if I was serving in that role, put me at the cabinet table. It would also put me in a meeting with the Prime Minister of Canada every single morning, every single week, which would give me the opportunity to have the loudest voice that anyone could possibly have on behalf of our constituency.
Thank you. And Sarah.
So I understand this is a very heated topic right now, and my personal standpoint, like when I first heard about vaccine passports, I didn't agree with it. I thought it was scary, government overreach, a little too much information. But here in Alberta, as we have seen, the counts, the cases rise, our ICUs fill. My best friend's surgery was postponed. It was supposed to happen Monday, now it's delayed 112 days. So that's 112 days of pain that she has to endure because our ICUs are full. On top of that, our economy needs to keep going, it has to keep growing. So reflecting on the greater good, if it's a provincial mandate, so if they want to implement it, that'll be on our province. For international, the whole world is going towards vaccine passports. Oh, I'm sorry, like Blake said, it's sadly what is happening, and we can't control that here. Well, if we want to have tourists come back, and we want to increase our economy, we can either get on board, or we can be left behind. I'm sorry, but yeah, I believe in the greater good, and there is no mandatory vaccinations. No one's going to hold you down and make you take a vaccine, and it's not true. Show me where that's happening. It's not happening anywhere. So it's going to be okay, guys. Like, science works. I believe in science, and I hope you do too, because vaccines are high school science.
10 seconds.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
No. I'm the only one up here who has an alternative to this.
Everybody has had an opportunity to speak 3 times.
Everybody, I am the only one up here who has an alternative.
Everybody else has had the same opportunity to respond to questions. Thank you.
So the one party
So
who has a different viewpoint on vaccinations is not allowed to speak on vaccinations.
So thank you very much. A comment.
See you all outside, and I will.
You have every right to meet with the candidate outside after the session indoors is done. I want to thank the audience for coming out. My comment as to wanting a panel of candidates that weren't prepared for the questions that were coming, I think it's opportunistic for you to see how they react in the moment to situations. Everyone here. I want to thank all the candidates for taking the time to come tonight, but especially I want to thank you as members of the community that took the time to come listen. And I wish you and I want to wish you the best in your decision process a week from now. So good luck with your decision process. Again, you're welcome to meet with candidates outside the building so that we can shut down the venue. And thank you again for attending tonight to both the audience and their candidates.
Difference of opinion. Wow. The only party that has a difference of opinion on vaccine passports and mandatory vaccines, and we were refused the opportunity to respond.
You mean those experimental crapolas that have no long-term data? You mean those things?
Did anybody else?
What?
How do you guys feel about that? So the one party who had a different opinion, and we were denied.
It's called censorship.
Censorship. A debate is only as good, a forum is only as good as the questions that are asked.
They were stupid.
Yeah. And we were asked, I was asked about water.
Yeah. Thank you.
And denied the opportunity to share with all those people our position on vaccine mandates.
Thanks, Nadine. We can hear your voice.
Absolutely. So if anybody would like to hear our position on vaccine mandates as you leave, no, we'll wait. If anybody would like to hear the PPC's position on vaccine mandates or vaccine passports, please, by all means, stay.
Thanks, Nadine. Yes, we'd love to hear that. It must be dangerous, obviously.
His position on vaccine passports and vaccine mandates, I'd be happy to answer that question for you.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
We'll wait for people to come out. Yep. If anybody would like to hear the PPC's position on vaccine mandates, vaccine passports, please. Be happy to answer that question for you.
The Christian Heritage Party is also against vaccine mandates.
There's multiple people that are against it. But we are the only national party who has been promoting rights and freedoms for all Canadians equally. We reject segregation. We reject discrimination based upon medical choice. It is no different than discrimination based upon color, based upon race, based upon sexual orientation. It has no place, period. It is your private. It is an issue not only of medical choice, it's privacy. This is your private information. You should not have to disclose that to anybody. And we are the only party, the only ones who are standing on the freedoms and the rights of you as individuals to choose your own medical treatments. And they, every single party, Mr. Richards said, what did he say in there? There's conditions attached to your freedoms. He never said that, but he implied that. There's conditions attached to your freedoms. And, oh, it will be voluntary what the Conservative Party is going to do. Have you ever known the government to do anything temporary? It was 2 weeks to flatten the curve. That turned into 20 months. That's oppression. Oh, we're not going to force anybody. You think having to choose between your job and feeding your family and taking an experimental vaccine, that is a choice? That is not my Canada! No! Sorry, you guys, but enough is enough. Enough is enough. Either we stand and we take this country back and we fight for our rights, or we will lose them. I have been calm, I have been quiet, I have been respectful, but they disrespect us. And no more. No more. It has to end here. September 20th, we each get one vote. Your vote is as powerful as Justin Trudeau's, as Aaron O'Toole, and as everybody else. Use it wisely. Thank you for everyone.
Do you think that passport will just be used for vaccines?
No, of course not.
It will not. You're the company that Entrust, who the UK contracted for those passports, that company has a history back to World War II. And they have data group, which is your credit cards, your bank cards, gift cards, passports, everything. They have the technology to attach that all, and you better believe they will.
Again, guys, the only party who had a different opinion was the only one who was not allowed to speak. And if you think we're not being censored, you don't think those questions weren't geared specifically to specific candidates? Think again.
Look at the freedom rallies around the world.
Absolutely. The UK has just recently rejected passports. The NDP seems to think that, oh, it's a necessary evil. In order to get our economy back. No, we don't need a passport to get our economy back. We just got to start working. Get the government out of the way.
Stay out of it. If they hadn't done so, we would be working now.
Absolutely. There you go. End the COVID restrictions. Let's get back to living our lives.
I want to call out Chamber of Commerce. I personally had contacted Kelly Carson back in the lockdown, and I asked him to help end the lockdown by having a convoy and getting the community together to say we're going to open on a certain date. His response to me was, you want me to get behind in the lockdown? And I said, yes. He said he can't. He wants us all to get healthy. So my point is
they asked a question about mental health.
Businesses are for Trudeau.
It is the federal government that has created the problem we have with mental health. And we need to get them out of our lives. Not bigger, more government, less government. The bigger government becomes, the less freedoms we will have.
How many of us would even know COVID existed if it wasn't for the constant barrage of everything on mainstream media and such? I knew no one that had COVID. and I come from a large family. Not one person do I know that got COVID. Okay, that says a lot. I do know of people that have died of the vaccine and have had vaccine injuries, but no one of COVID. That says a lot.
And so let's be really clear. The People's Party of Canada, we are not anti-vax. We are not pro-vax. I don't care.
Yes.
You are free Canadian citizens to make adult decisions for yourself and for your families. Nobody else's business.
Freedom. They're trying to treat us like an adult for voting. Why can't they treat us like adults for all the other decisions?
Vaccine passports and vaccine mandates have no place in Canada.
That's right.
No place.
That's right.
Miss Wellwood, even right now, I'm looking in those windows, I'm seeing people without masks on. Why is it that the RCMP was willing to threaten fines and forceful removal for those of us out here who chose not to wear a mask, but the people who are standing there right now without masks are not being threatened?
Yeah.
Where's the equality from the RCMP?
Because right now we're living in a society where some people have more rights than others. And the People's Party of Canada rejects that premise. I'm going, we are all equal under the law. We deserve to have equal choice. We deserve to have equal rights. And I'm going, Canada is either a nation of laws or it is a nation that is lawless. So we were the one party who had a differing opinion, and we were refused the opportunity to share that with everybody in that room. Censorship.
They did not let you speak in there?
Did not let me speak to that question. They asked everybody else to speak, to answer the question on vaccine passports, on mandatory vaccines, except for the one national party who has a different opinion than everyone else. Mr. Blake Richards has an opinion. Oh, it's voluntary. The government has never done anything temporary or voluntary in its life.
It's only voluntary as long as you go along with the requirements.
We need...
Require you to participate or be re-educated. Excuse me? That sounds like urine.
So on September 20th, we each get a vote. One vote. Your vote is as powerful as Justin Trudeau's, as Aaron O'Toole's, and as everybody else's. Use it wisely. The question on the ballot box this time around is whether or not you want to live as a free citizen in your own country, or whether you want to live under the government dictate where they tell you what you can put into your own bodies. What happened to Justin Trudeau's "my body, my choice"? At his own convenience.
Even a year ago, there was no vaccine passports. What's his platform?
That is your private medical information. You should not have to share that with anyone. Sure.
Are you pro-life or pro-choice?
I am very much pro-life, sir. And the reason I am pro-life is because an unborn child is still a child, and it has rights to its life. And as a mother, I respect life more than anything else, which is why I'm having this fight right now. Because I have a 10-year-old little girl who doesn't feel welcome in her own school. How's that for mental health? Look at what we're doing to our children. We're robbing parents of their parental rights. Because you're being told, you know what, if your 12-year-old wants to have a vaccine, that's okay, they can come get a vaccine. They can't drive a car. They can't vote.
Can't go skiing without parental.
They need a permission to go on a field trip with your signature on it. But they can have a vaccine. And we are the only party, the only national party that has spoken out against this. And again, we weren't invited to speak on the topic.
We want to give our children everything that we had and better. This is not better. This is far, far the opposite. We are heading to communism right headlong into it.
We're there. We're not heading.
Next vote, how can you shoot your way out of communism? Make this vote count, people. This is your vote for freedom.
Where can I get
This is your vote for freedom.
I have one in my truck. You are more than welcome to it.
This, he said, is going to be way worse than communism. If they get away with this, way worse than communism.
Thank you to the people who unfortunately were not allowed to enter this evening. I do see most people in there right now do not have masks on. Lots of them don't. So it seems like we have a double standard. It only applies during a debate or during a forum. It doesn't apply to after. Yeah.
Thank you, Nadine, for doing what we asked
Thank
of you.
you.
And to go in there and to speak up for us. We thank you for that.
Thank you.
Ms. Walbert, I have a question. On your policy platform for vaccine mandates, you know what, that's a provincial jurisdiction, right, for healthcare?
No, it's not, because it's a federal jurisdiction to protect the rights and the freedoms of all Canadians. That is not a provincial jurisdiction.
Oh, okay.
That is a federal jurisdiction.
Yeah, because I was just going to ask about, because you know how, like, for example, in Alberta recently we had, like, the mask mandates removed, but in Ontario they still had them. So, like, there's some different, health rules between provinces.
All Canadians are equal under the law. There's one law. Okay. That Health Act was never ratified in Parliament because Parliament hasn't sat for 18 months.
Oh, okay.
I'm going, thank you for asking the question, but the reality is the government has a responsibility to each and every Canadian to protect their rights, and they're being violated. And they're the ones doing it.
Thank you for answering my question.
No, forgive my passion.
It's no problem.
It was a good question.
Thank you for answering my question.
You're welcome.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
So I go to Fairview Baptist Church in Calgary. My pastor is Tim Stevens, who was, of course, in jail for 18 days. And I'm good friends, we're good friends with Pastor James Coates of Grace Life Church in Edmonton, and I've met Pastor Jacob Rayone, a swell guy. He came to preach for us when Pastor Tim was in jail. And
yes.
I know Mike Thiessen, pastor out in Ontario, worked with Maxime Bernier and Derek Sloan on the Lockdowns Caucus. Are you a Christian as well?
I am, and actually I was here in Alberta talking about Mr. James Coates and Pastor Stevens when nobody else was doing it. I have interviews on my YouTube channel where I have called out Jason Kenney on his disgraceful behavior for jailing pastors, for serving their congregations. It's a disgrace, an absolute disgrace. It is inexcusable. I was a part of the No More Lockdowns in Bowden Rodeo. One of the people who made sure that happened and was there to support it. So I've been here as an Albertan fighting for Albertans, not because it was election time.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
But because it was the right thing to do.
Right on.
And I will continue to do that.
Thank you, Nadine.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
At some point, I think Pastor Tim would be delighted to meet you.
I would be happy to meet him. I actually did an interview with a pastor in Ontario because I do believe Pastor Tim was actually in jail at the time. And just please go to my YouTube channel. You'll see it there. It was a great interview and we had a great conversation. I actually did one as well with another pastor right here locally who, what is Stewart? Doc's. Yeah, what's Doc's first name though? Economics 101.
Yeah, I
did an interview with him as well.
Video,
Yeah, Watkins, Dr. Watkins. Yeah, Doc Watkins, Stewart.
Yeah,
Can you believe that? Can you believe that? We're the only party that has a difference of opinion. No, sorry, you can't answer that question. Excuse me?
Yeah, I have it opened up right here, ready to watch.
All right, well, and as you'll see, for 2 years, people have been wondering what I've been doing. You haven't looked very hard if you can't find me on YouTube. I've been fighting for this for 2 years. I haven't stopped.
Keep going, never stop.
I'm terribly sorry that I haven't been paying much
It's okay,
attention,
sweetie,
but
it's okay.
Thank you.
No, it's okay.
I'm Chris.
Chris? Nice to meet you, Chris.
Yes, nice to meet you
We're,
too.
this is our family.
Yes.
Right here. We will be the pillars that we can lean upon. This one. This is the one I'm fighting for. Boy or girl?
We don't know.
Good for you.
We're trying to stay as far away from the communist medical system as possible.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah, it's a crazy time.
Insanity. Oh, we've got police cars. Oh. And say they're not coming to get me, are they? Yes. Oh, are they? Sure. Sure. Please just invite anybody who would like to hear the PPC's position on vaccine mandates. Please feel free to come ask. So, hi, sir. How are you?
Yeah.
My name's. I won't shake your hand if you don't want to.
No, it is okay.
Yeah. So we are the one party who, from the beginning, all the way through consistently, have spoken out against vaccine mandates and vaccine passports. There is no room for discrimination in Canada. This is a direct violation of our charter and our rights and our freedoms, and we are the one party who has stood strong on this issue since day one. Day one, without wavering. It has no place here. They are creating a society of two classes of citizens, some who have more rights than others, and we reject that. It has no place in Canada. That is not my Canada. That is not the Canadian our veterans have fought and died to protect our freedoms. That is our... Absolutely. They're all the same. Every single one of them in there, conservatives included, all the same. We were the only ones who had a difference of opinion, and we were the only ones denied. So censorship.
Because we will be dividing people. It is discrimination.
No, Mr. Trudeau has been dividing people. He's been the most divisive Prime Minister we have had in the history of this country.
Every candidate that wanted to answer that last question should have been given the time to do it.
Ma'am,
it was just wrong.
We are the only ones who have a differing opinion. The only ones.
I think Derek has a different opinion.
Well, Derek has the same opinion as we do.
Yeah,
we are
but
the
he didn't
only
have a
national
chance-
party.
But he didn't have a chance to speak.
Of course not, because we're the only ones. It was strategic. The only ones who have a differing opinion.
And where can the
And we
complaints go to?
Exactly.
It was the Chamber of Commerce guy that was running it. I just talked to him. He said that in other forums, that question bust up the whole forum and the police had to be brought in.
So why did he ask it
didn't
at all? Why did he ask it at all?
He knew it was something people wanted to hear. So he
It is the ballot question. If there was one question everybody should have had the right to answer, was that one question. That is the ballot question.
Yeah, for the last 19 months.
Absolutely.
You are really right about that. Boy, oh boy. By the way,
I was going to ask you, so I'm not actually in this riding. I came out because we really like Derek Sloan to support him. I'm actually in Rempel's riding.
Yes.
And I was pretty fed up with how the Conservatives have been, to be honest. And so we came out here just as supporting for Sloan. But I've been looking at the different party options, right? And so it's pretty much in my area, it's either Conservatives, and I don't think There's a Maverick running, so it's Conservatives, PPC, NDP, or Liberal, right?
Yeah.
And I think I want to go PPC, but at the same time, it seems like Rempel kind of has this stranglehold on that area. And I don't disagree with everything she's done. I think she's been not really, like, I liked when you said you got to stand up and fight for the people because it's getting trampled on, right?
So the Conservative Party of Canada
Mhm.
is the same as Justin Trudeau and the
Yeah.
Liberal Party of Canada on just about every
It seems like it's the lesser of evils.
We are the
almost.
only ones.
Do you guys know how it looks in terms of getting some of the candidates in? Because this time versus last
We
time,
are
does it look
polling
good?
right now at 22% in Alberta.
Okay.
Those polls, those numbers aren't coming out of Edmonton and Calgary. They're coming out of ridings like this.
Yeah.
And so,
for sure, that's totally okay.
no
Awesome.
worries. So I hope, yes,
Okay,
that
'cause
you
I
will
was thinking of
vote
going
your
PPC
conscience and
is what I'm thinking,
vote the
but
People's Party.
it's tough because the rep
I've
was so
spoken
much
to these
thing,
guys.
but awesome. Anyway, thanks
Yes.
guys. No,
No,
thank
no,
you. And
no
I'm glad
worries.
you stood up because I respect that a lot.
Thank
so
you.
thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Let's ask that moderator. Why did you even ask that question?
Just so she knows.
No, I've already spoken
Oh,
to
okay,
them.
perfect.
I
Okay,
did.
good.
I spoke to
I
them.
told you we're going to speak. I
Yeah.
just want you to know there was a bunch of people came out there and we were saying, do you want to hear what Nadine Speed is on? And they says, we're all for her. We were very disappointed she couldn't speak in there. So I just want you to know you had company in the room. And so that they were coming out all talking.
Oh, hi.
Hi, it's Bob. I
It's
meet
Bob
you
again.
on
Nice
the way
to
out
meet
is on the
you.
way in.
Thank you.
Again, you know I already support fiscal responsibility. I support individual freedom, freedom of choice on medical decisions, obviously. To me, that stuff's just common sense, which unfortunately is becoming a little more rare at the federal level all the time. I am a dyed-in-the-wool Westerner.
I'm sorry.
A dyed-in-the-wool Westerner. I
Okay.
don't believe Western Canada is getting a fair shake. In fact, to be honest,
We're not.
We're not.
We're not.
I've lived and worked east and west, and I know it. How would the PPC secure a better present and future for Western Canada?
We support our oil and gas industry. We support the fact that the province deserves to have more autonomy over its own natural resources. We do not support a carbon tax. The carbon tax is causing life to become more unaffordable for people every day. Food prices, energy prices, housing prices are all going up. Why? Because the government is in the daily lives of every Canadian, and we need smaller government. So again, it comes back to smaller government and less fiscal responsibility. All of those things, every platform that we have, every issue is good for Alberta. And if it's good for Alberta, it is good for the rest of Canada.
Yes, I wish more of our Eastern brothers and sisters would wake up to
A
that.
strong Alberta is a strong Canada. Why are we not the ones supplying the oil to the United States right now? Why are we not energy independent? Why do we still have 15% of our own oil coming up through the St. Lawrence? Again, we weren't asked that question.
I agree wholeheartedly. And I'm very, very glad that you were able to participate in the debate. To me, that was a travesty if they had not allowed that.
Well,
So
thank you very much for
goodness
your
that better judgment prevailed. Anyway, thank you for standing up and running and doing your best. And again, your party has an awful lot of good, common sense, practical approach.
Things that we can implement tomorrow, that we don't have a plan, that we can't even explain what's in the plan. We have a plan. I can tell you on every policy that we have, there are things that we would implement immediately. Pipelines, using the Constitution, Section 9210, and the carbon tax. Repeal C10 and C36. Repeal the banker TAN, C48, C69. Real actionable items. I don't just get to stand up and say, oh yeah, well we have a plan, go read our 180 pages.
Yeah, yeah. And
Easy
you're
to
right.
read.
It needs action. It needs action. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank
All the
you.
best to you.
Please spread the word.
I will. Thank you.
Spread the word.
I will,
Thank
dear.
you.
Bless you.
Bye.
Hey, Miss Nadine, I'm on my way home. I have a long day of door knocking tomorrow. Thank you. You did good. You did good.
You watched?
So forth. Yeah, we watched over there. A couple of people had their phones out.
David, thank you.
Yes, and I did speak to the reporter, Noel. I told him that I went to bat for you, you know, the rules are the rules, right? I thought I don't remember which talk it was, but I think I heard you the most powerful speech I've heard from you this day.
Thank you.
I was very, very impressed.
Thank you. Well, I'm fighting for your rights too. So
Absolutely, you know, and I think that democracy allows us to do that.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, I've always done my best to ensure that we have a level playing field. And I don't think it's fair if people take choices, like make decisions for what is allowed in democracy. And, you know, I think we all have to fight for each other's democracy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome.
Have a good night, David.
Yeah, you too.
Okay. Bye.
In truth, I miss Jean Chrétien. Anyway, good night.
Good night. Thank you, John. Wow, what a night. There's still people here. I haven't scared.
You finally left.
What's that? Yeah. Well, they know I am no threat to anybody.
That was classy.
I was.
Hopefully you're doing A-okay.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Trudeau is the master of hell.
He is the master of division, that's for sure.
I didn't know you were a Christian.
Yes, I am.
God bless you.
Thank you.
It's getting better.
I'm going to give this to you for a second.
Can you comment about actually being let in finally?
Oh, so when I was denied access originally, I guess medical forms change on a daily basis now, it seems. Good night! And my letter apparently didn't have the registration or the practitioner's number on it. It's the same letter for a medical exemption that I've had since the beginning of this. And it was compliant at the time. And so my doctor did call and give his practitioner's number, so I was allowed in. I was not going to go in because, of course, there's a number of people here who have medical exemptions who were denied access. And they were the ones who asked if I would go in and participate in tonight's debate and tonight's forum. And so, good night, David. Thank you again. You're welcome. Thank you. And I went in at their request because I was more than happy to stand out here with them shoulder to shoulder. If, again, either we all have equal rights in this country or we don't.
Thank you everyone for attending. We're just wrapping up the evening. There's a lot of Nadine PPC supporters still here, and Team Sloan is also here. We will keep filming Unfortunately, we've had to turn the audio off and just rely on the camera audio as the camera is getting low on power. 99 minutes, and that's about all that it can take. So we're charging the camera up. You will get some audio via the camera itself, but unfortunately no direct audio feed with Nadine at this time. Oh, I'm charging now. I just can't charge and record at the same time. So you can't charge. No, this has nothing to do with it. The phone's on. I've been filming for 99 minutes. It's been live streaming for 99 minutes. It's
How many people on it?
Just like 30 at a time kind of thing. Yeah, not a huge number, but I mean, again, you're live streaming, right? So we didn't plan on it.
She was so passionate about that. Just
Yeah, the only unfortunate thing was I had the audio down as low as I could, and she's flipping all left, right, and center, and you wouldn't have heard a damn word she says. Oh yeah, it would have just been static.
I actually got some of it.
Good.
It means shutting it down for a while.
Yeah, you should be real proud of her. You know, honestly, God, it took a lot of guts to do what she did.
The other thing is
She fought today. Yeah, that's for sure. Just
They don't get it. It's like this lady over here is talking literally, and she all of a sudden she starts going about the mask. It doesn't kill you to wear a mask. I said, yeah, it does. I said, you can wear a mask, yeah. I don't care if you wear a mask. But I don't like the government telling you to wear a mask.
So what he's saying is we deliver all the services
Well, I can't keep standing. This isn't.
Probably freezing.
No, my. Okay, well then. Okay.
Yeah, if we have to wear a mask.
Well, yes. They Laura charges.
And where was that?
No, she's the returning officer for Banff-Airdrie. She's very adamant. Although they have indicated they were
well, the problem is that there was the
so there is still
social distance, all you want.
Yeah, okay.
And that's just it. So
Okay.
we do have the option. If they do, they'll get a cost. If they have an issue, we just turn around and walk away. Grab our sheets. That's the big thing. It's just knowing the vote sheets every hour or so. So all those
Any indication?
no. All the votes get sent back to every office. All the special ballots we voted today. The ballots get mailed to every office. All of these things.
So, here's the even we don't know. But
Yeah. So it's got to be
It's about 25% in some states.
Yeah. They show the amount and it's
Yeah, I've been right now.
and that's what I figure is happening here.
Thanks, Jason. Lifesaver.
A little bit warmer.
Really nice.
Do you have one of those things to stick in the ground too, or no?
I don't hear it.
I love the fact you brought the truck down with all the logos.
Yeah, well, we just heard the smart guys on the way in. I'm like, they're gonna think you're supposed
Yeah, the black truck, Julie right there.
to. Yeah, don't talk to them.
Jason,
Yeah.
do you have a frame so they can put up a Nadine
Yes,
sign?
of course I do.
Yeah,
Yes,
perfect.
definitely. Here, let me hand this
I got
over.
some in the car. I got some. Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, I should say goodbye to Nadine.
Yeah. It's gonna see. Oh, good.
Yeah,
you know, it's a.
I've got some.
Yeah.
You're doing printing now, eh?
Well,
Yeah, no, that's good. That's
Snickers?
yeah, I know.
Whatever, they're just.
Yeah.
It's kind of sketchy too.
Well, you know, you just what I learned.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Alan. I live I love you too.
And that is our free worship with us. Hear about this risen King. I'm preaching now.
You guys have to serve out.
And we're not going to get another. This one is we can't say the next night. I'm going to, there may not.
Oh, perfect. I saw that. Yes, make sure you try to.
Will not, and you know, will not do that in this.
Swallow your own spit.
I got that at the same time.
I think it might be a bourbon night.
Still alive?
We're still alive.
It's basically grapefruit leaves, grapefruit peel, and lemon peel. And you put the water, and then you let it simmer. Do not take it off. It's going to stay in your place when you're going to eat it. And you leave it simmer.
So these guys give me the impression that he's living here. Moved here. I should have said. Are they still? You know, just distraction.
According to scientists,
I'm imagining he's just enamored with it.
Well, but we know that the biblical record is very clear.
No, why do you think that's seriously? No, he was talking to me. He said he's great. Why do you think I'm saying No, not now. Kelly was already there, just north of it. So we're here with him. Yeah. Oh look, it's a plane. I haven't seen one of those forever. I haven't been in one of those forever. Illegally standing around out here.
It's nice to meet you.
See you guys.
Yeah, take care, right? Yeah. Let's hope.
I know. So change it. Think about something. Nadine is part of Canada or whatever, right?
Yeah, I've got a pretty chill week,
Because this is, I was telling, no, I'm not going to associate with communists at all. I don't want to listen. She wasn't speaking like that. Work on the name, just killing.
It's going to be too expensive for me. It's going to be too expensive. I had to hire a guy. You know?
Oh yeah, totally.
I had to have cars and I had to pay for everything.
Oh, great.
So
do that.
I just said, no, I'm not doing it.
I went to
I'm happy to hear this because I haven't watched it.
They have some pretty good coffee.
No, he was laying there.
On Sundays or Saturdays? Sundays at what time?
We have,
As a kid, I
watched
watched
at
10:30
Sunday's worship service.
I think in summer, and I've got a printed photo of it.
Until about 1 o'clock. Yeah, that's cool. And that's he's dead there for 30 years. He's the
No fines, right?
Marks, Angles, and
No. If there's anything, please call me.
All right, I need to I need to pull her out.
Yeah, one second. I'm just going to say goodbye to everybody here.
we'll just wait another 25 minutes.
Sorry, everyone. There's babies around, and she's definitely going to go watch them. On behalf of Nadine Wellwood and the campaign, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. We're going to end the stream now.
They'll probably flip these lights off pretty soon.
Yeah, that's why I'm going to end there here.
But then he went on
Oh, out the back door.
The back door? Blake Richards did not walk in the front door like everybody else.
No.
See,
Privileged door.
Liberal guy came out the front door.
Yeah,
And he's talking to
and
people.
he came in the front door. But Blake Richards, do you guys know which door Blake actually came in through?
How did he leave? How did he leave?
He walked through the back, obviously.
Oh, he probably left right through the front. No one noticed.
Yeah, we would have noticed.
I missed it.
She was talking about Blake Richards.
Which door did Blake Richards come in?
Oh.
I just said he probably came in out the front.
Even David Gamble came out the front.
That could have been too.
What a chicken.
That's mean.
Well, you know,
But funny.
Let's
Do you want
go home.
to say goodnight to everyone still watching?
so much.
Good night, everybody. You're still with me after all this time. It's like,
I'm
wow.
sorry, you need a ball coat, sign off some of your special whatever.
Fantastic. Good night.
There you go.